It's late December 2025, and while the world sees glossy trailers and carefully crafted Netflix moments, someone else is living a very different reality behind closed doors. Jessica Mulroney is watching a life she built quietly fall apart. A 16-year marriage is ending. A career once thriving never recovered from the scandal that wiped it out in 2020. And at the same time, Meghan Markle is reintroducing herself to the world as an authentic voice people are encouraged to trust. That contrast is exactly why whispers are growing louder. Because according to multiple sources, Jessica isn't just reflecting on the past. She's allegedly telling people private stories about her decade-long friendship with Meghan that paint a very different picture of those Toronto years. Stories involving manipulation, betrayal, and an alleged line that should never have been crossed. And if even part of what's being said is true, it could explain why some reports claim Meghan's team is increasingly uneasy about what might come out next. But to understand why these rumors are surfacing now, you have to go back to how this friendship really began. Jessica Mulroney and Meghan Markle weren't casual friends. They were inseparable. Their relationship started in 2011, when Meghan moved to Toronto to film Suits. Photos and posts from that era show a closeness that went far beyond industry networking. Vacations together, family time, constant appearances side by side. This wasn't Hollywood convenience. This looked like real trust. Jessica wasn't just a stylist. She was deeply connected. Married to Ben Mulroney, son of former Canadian Prime Minister Brian Mulroney, she moved easily through elite circles. Her home wasn't just a hangout spot. It was an entry point. Meghan wasn't simply welcomed into Jessica's life, she was folded into her family. That closeness reached its peak in 2018. Jessica's children were part of Meghan's royal wedding. She walked into St. George's Chapel alongside Catherine, Princess of Wales. She joined Meghan and Harry on royal tours. Every detail of this is publicly documented. If there was ever someone the world believed Meghan trusted completely, it was Jessica. But behind the polished photos and public loyalty, sources now claim something far more complicated may have been unfolding. According to multiple independent insiders, rumors suggest that during those Toronto years, boundaries were allegedly crossed in ways that quietly destroyed trust long before the public ever noticed cracks in the friendship. These sources claim Jessica has been privately telling confidants that Meghan behaved inappropriately with her husband, Ben, during the very period when everyone believed they were simply close friends. To be clear, these are allegations, unverified claims, but the consistency of the stories has raised eyebrows. The suggestion isn't of a single lapse in judgment. It's of something ongoing, something hidden behind shared dinners, family moments, and years of proximity. If that sounds extreme, consider the timeline people are now re-examining. Meghan wasn't a distant acquaintance. She was deeply embedded in their lives, around their children, at their home, traveling with them. If an affair had happened, as rumors suggest, it wouldn't have been a brief secret. It would have required sustained deception. And that's where the story takes a darker turn. Because in June 2020, everything exploded, but not for the reasons most people think. Jessica was publicly accused of behavior that ignited a media firestorm. The fallout was immediate and devastating. Television appearances vanished. Projects were canceled. Her reputation collapsed almost overnight. And during that moment, when she lost nearly everything, Meghan cut her off completely. No public defense. No private loyalty. According to reports at the time, Meghan used the controversy as the reason she'd been waiting for to end the friendship for good. Jessica stayed silent. She turned down reported seven-figure book offers. She didn't retaliate. She didn't explain herself. For 5 years, she protected someone who no longer acknowledged her existence. That silence is important, because people don't usually stay quiet for that long unless they're protecting something or someone. Fast forward to August 2025. Ben Mulroney files for divorce. Public record. A 16-year marriage comes to an end. And according to sources, that moment forced Jessica to confront questions she'd buried for years. Questions about whether the damage to her marriage started long before lawyers got involved. Questions about Meghan's role in fractures she once tried to ignore. This is where, according to insiders, everything shifted. Multiple sources claim Jessica has been telling close confidants that Meghan didn't just abandon her in 2020, she betrayed her years earlier, that the friendship was already broken long before the scandal, and that the divorce has made her question why she continued protecting someone who allegedly crossed lines inside her marriage, then walked away when things got hard. What made these claims spread so quickly wasn't just the accusation itself. It was what sources say Jessica has kept all this time. Several insiders allege Jessica has evidence. Old messages. Communications from the Toronto years that she never deleted. One source claimed she kept them as insurance, not to use, but to remind herself of what really happened. Another alleged she recently showed some of this material to trusted friends, which is why the rumors are circulating now. Again, none of this has been verified publicly. But the implication alone is explosive. Because if evidence exists, it would explain why Jessica stayed silent for so long. It would explain why Meghan reportedly worries less about gossip and more about documentation. It also fits a pattern critics have pointed out for years. Meghan's history is filled with relationships that end abruptly. Family members, former friends, professional allies, people who once played central roles, only to disappear completely when they became inconvenient. Jessica's experience, as some see it, mirrors that pattern almost perfectly. Support is embraced when it's useful. Distance follows when it's not. If the alleged affair is true, it reframes everything. The Toronto years stop looking like a wholesome chapter and start looking strategic. It would suggest access to elite spaces wasn't accidental. That Jessica's connections mattered. That loyalty was expected but never returned. And that brings us to why this moment is reportedly so dangerous. According to sources, Meghan's team is monitoring the situation closely. Not because of tabloids, but because unpredictability is the real threat. Jessica has already lost her career. Her marriage is ending. Her friendship with Meghan has been dead for half a decade. If she speaks now, she's not risking anything she hasn't already lost. That's a terrifying position to be in for both sides. Legally, any public accusation would require proof. Insiders claim Jessica understands that better than anyone. If she were to speak, it wouldn't be emotional. It would be calculated. Messages, timelines, receipts. That's what allegedly makes this different from ordinary rumor cycles. So where does that leave things as we move into 2026? Here's what we know for sure. There was a decade-long friendship. It ended brutally in 2020. Jessica lost everything while Meghan stayed silent. A divorce is now confirmed. And multiple independent sources are making remarkably similar claims about what Jessica has been saying privately regarding betrayal during the Toronto years. What we don't know is whether Jessica will ever speak publicly, or if silence will continue to protect someone who, according to those same sources, no longer deserves it. Because when someone has nothing left to lose, silence stops being noble. It becomes a choice. And if insiders are right about Jessica's current mindset, that choice may not stay quiet much longer.